She said it like it meant nothing. Like it wasn't going to stick to my ribs for months. Like it wasn't going to echo in my head every night for weeks. We were arguing. Not about anything big. Just another stupid fight about plans, timing, who said what first. The usual. I was frustrated, but calm. She was pacing around the kitchen, tossing out every cheap shot she could think of. I'd heard it all before. Until she stopped mid-sentence, turned toward me, and said it. You'll never be a man like my ex. She didn't shout it. She didn't cry it. She just said it. Plain. Cold. Sharp. Like it was simply a fact I needed to accept. And just like that, the room felt different. The silence that followed wasn't normal. It wasn't the kind of silence where you're waiting for someone to apologize. It was the kind where something inside you quietly breaks. She turned away like it didn't matter. Like she hadn't just compared me to the guy who used to scream at her. The guy she once told me made her feel small and replaceable. The one she swore she never wanted to see again. But now, he was the standard. And I was just the placeholder. I didn't say a word. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I finally realized that nothing I said would matter anymore. In that moment, I saw the relationship for what it was. Not a partnership, not love, but a game I was never going to win. She had already decided what I wasn't, what I'd never be. So I did something she didn't expect. I stopped fighting for it. I walked to the bedroom, took out the old duffel bag from under the bed, and began folding my clothes. Quietly. No slamming. No drama. Just done. She followed me in, confused, still angry. "What are you doing?" she asked. But her tone was already shifting. The sharp edge in her voice was dulling. Because she could feel it. Something had changed. For real this time. I zipped the bag and looked up at her. And I saw it. That flicker of panic. The one people get when they realize they went too far. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I didn't even say goodbye. I just said, "I hope he was everything you needed." And I left. No calls. No texts. No, "Where are you?" Just silence. But that silence wasn't empty. It was full. Full of everything I had swallowed for months. Full of every moment I let her talk down to me. Full of every time I told myself she'd come around. I didn't leave her that night to hurt her. I left because I finally understood. That staying would have been the real damage. To myself. And as I stepped outside, into the cold air, into the unknown, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because I had a plan. Not because I knew what was next. But because I knew what I wasn't going back to. She thought I left to chase revenge. But I wasn't chasing anything. I was walking away. From a version of myself. That allowed someone to treat me like a shadow. And I promised myself right then. That the next time she saw me, she wouldn't even recognize the man she tried to compare. Because I wasn't going to be better than her ex. I was going to become someone she could never reach again. The next morning, I woke up on my friend Jordan's couch. My phone was buzzing. Not with her messages, yet, but with the usual stuff. Work reminders. A couple memes in the group chat. Nothing heavy. Nothing life-shattering. And still, somehow, everything felt different. There's something strange about waking up the first morning after you walk away from someone you once imagined forever with. The air feels colder. The world feels quieter. Your thoughts run slower. But underneath all of it, there's a pulse. A spark. A voice saying, "Asterisk, you did it. You finally stopped waiting to be enough for someone who never truly saw you." Asterisk. Jordan came into the room, holding 2 mugs of coffee. He handed me one without asking questions. He didn't need to. He had seen the bag. The blank look in my eyes last night. The silence I wrapped around myself like a blanket. "You good?" he asked. Simple. I nodded once. Getting there. That was the first time I had admitted it out loud. Not that I was heartbroken, but that I was done. The next few days were a blur of small, powerful decisions. I blocked her number. Not out of anger, but out of discipline. Because I knew myself. I knew how easy it would be to fall back into her orbit the second she said the right thing, the second she acted like I mattered again. But I didn't want to matter again. I wanted to matter on my own terms. I deleted our pictures. I unfollowed her on every platform. I didn't do it to erase her. I did it to free myself. Because love that comes with constant comparison isn't love. It's performance. It's pressure. It's war. And I was done being drafted into battles I didn't start. I went back to work the next day. Tired, a little numb, but clear. I showed up early. Stayed focused. Said yes to extra assignments. Something inside me needed movement. Momentum. Progress. I wasn't chasing success to prove her wrong. I was chasing myself, the version of me I'd been putting on hold while trying to earn love from someone who treated it like currency. I signed up for the gym that weekend. Nothing flashy, just a 24-hour spot down the street. I didn't go to get ripped. I went to build routine. Discipline. To sweat out the weakness I had mistaken for patience. Every drop of sweat was a reminder that I wasn't stuck, that I wasn't broken, that I wasn't the man she labeled as less than her ex. Day by day, I began to shift. Not just physically, but mentally. The guy who once waited for texts now turned his phone on Do Not Disturb, and slept through the night without expecting anything from anyone. I changed the way I dressed. Not to be stylish, but to show myself I was worth more than hoodies and shame. I even updated my resume, finally applied to that creative agency downtown that I once said I wasn't good enough for. Got the interview. And 2 weeks later, I got the job. The same day I signed the offer letter. She texted me. It was short, casual, almost like nothing had ever happened. Hey, how've you been? I stared at the screen for a second. No anger. No rush of adrenaline. Just clarity. She thought I'd still be in the same place. Emotionally stuck. Spiritually small. Waiting to be seen. But what she didn't know was that I had outgrown the version of me she used to belittle. Silently, steadily, and completely. I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty, but because I had already answered her question. How've I been? Better. Without you. And becoming better still. The funny thing is, she had once accused me of being too quiet, too soft, too passive. But in the end, it was my silence that screamed the loudest. It started small, like it always does. She began liking my posts again. At first, I didn't notice. My mind was so far from her that seeing a heart pop up next to her name felt more like spotting a stranger than an old lover. But then came the second like. Then a story view. Then another. And another. And just like that, I knew. She was circling back. Not with words. Not yet. But with presence. The passive kind of presence that says, asterisk, I'm still watching you. I see what you've become. And I didn't expect it. Asterisk. I posted a photo from my first week at the new job. It was just me holding a coffee cup, early morning, with a caption that read, Chapter 1 of a Better Story. She liked that one too. Quickly. And I couldn't help but laugh. Because not long ago, she was the one telling me that I was too safe, too boring, too unsure. And now, she was watching me become everything she said I wasn't. Quietly. From a distance. Then came the DM. Simple. Soft. Hey. You've really been doing well lately. Proud of you. I stared at it for a long time. Because it didn't feel like pride. It felt like regret, wrapped in a compliment. It felt like a hand reaching out, not to congratulate, but to reopen a door she had slammed shut. I didn't reply. Not because I was being cold, but because I didn't owe her access to this version of me. Not anymore. She had already shown me what she thought I was worth. She had already measured me against someone else. And told me I'd never measure up. You don't get to come back and clap for the man you never believed in. You don't get to watch the garden grow and ask to pick flowers. When you walked away while I was planting seeds. A few days later, I saw a photo of her with him again. Her ex. The one she used to cry about. The one she said ruined her ability to trust. There they were. In a dimly lit bar. Her smile looked wide, but her eyes didn't. And I remembered her words. Back when she used to talk about him. He always made me feel invisible, she said. He never really listened. He acted like I was just another girl. So what changed? Nothing. He hadn't changed. She had just forgotten the hurt long enough to run back to familiarity. Because when I walked away, she didn't just lose me. She lost the mirror that showed her what she truly deserved. And now she was trying to get that reflection back. By chasing the version of me that no longer existed. The version of me that used to beg. That used to wait. That used to shrink so she could feel big. But that man, he was gone. And the one in his place didn't need to say a word to prove it. Because my silence was no longer a wound. It was proof of healing. And she was the one bleeding now. Not because I hurt her, but because I left her exactly where she told me I didn't belong. Behind. It wasn't a message this time. It was her, in front of me. I had gone to a local networking mixer, one of those events where professionals float around with name tags and tiny drinks, half smiling, half pitching themselves. I wasn't really in the mood, but my new job had encouraged everyone to go, so I did. I was standing by the appetizer table, talking with a marketing director about branding campaigns, when I felt a familiar presence. Not the kind that makes you nervous, the kind that makes your spine go still. I turned, and there she was, hair tied up, wearing that same dark green coat I bought her once. The same eyes, but less light. She froze too, only for a second. But in that second, we both knew. This wasn't coincidence. This was the part where the past walked into the room without knocking. "Hey," she said, soft, unsure. Completely different from the girl who once looked me in the eye and said, "You'll never be a man like my ex." I nodded. Phil. "Hey." She smiled, but it was shaky. Like she wasn't sure if she should be smiling at all. Like she knew she was in front of someone who had already let go. "You look different," she said. And I could tell she meant it. Not just the haircut, or the sharper jawline, or the clothes that actually fit. She meant the energy, the way I stood, the way I didn't shrink under her eyes anymore. "I've been working on myself," I said. Simple, truthful, no performance. She nodded slowly, looking down at her shoes for a moment. Then back up. "I heard you got the job downtown," she added. "And you're doing really well. People keep mentioning your name lately." There it was. The hint of awe. The crack in her voice. The tiny sting of watching someone evolve into exactly what you never thought they'd be. I just nodded. Didn't gloat. Didn't smirk. Because the win didn't need a caption. "Listen," she continued. "I've been meaning to say. I wasn't fair to you. That night, I shouldn't have said what I said. I was angry and insecure. And I think I was trying to hurt you before you could hurt me." I didn't interrupt. I let her speak. Because I wasn't there to fight. I wasn't there to comfort her. I was just there, standing tall, alive, unmoved. "You didn't deserve that," she whispered. "And I don't know. I hope someday you can forgive me." There it was. The apology. Months too late. But not too late for her. Too late for me. Because the truth is, I had already forgiven her. Not in a soft, emotional, let's make peace way, but in the I've outgrown this whole chapter kind of way. I appreciate you saying that, I said. And I do forgive you. She smiled. Not fully. Just enough to let herself breathe. But, I added, I think what hurt the most wasn't what you said. It was realizing you actually believed it. Her smile faded. She didn't deny it. She didn't try to spin it. She just stood there. Phil. I didn't see your worth back then, she admitted. I see it now. And that was the problem. She saw it now, when it was no longer hers to admire. No longer hers to stand beside. Someone called my name across the room. I turned, waved. When I turned back, she was already looking at the floor. Fingers twisted around the strap of her purse. Take care of yourself, I said. And I meant it. Because healing doesn't always look like revenge. Sometimes it looks like walking away with a steady voice and your head held high. I didn't need her guilt, or her sadness, or her explanations. I had everything I needed, and she had everything she lost. A week later, she sent one final message. It was long. Longer than anything she'd ever written to me when we were together. It didn't come through social media. Not even by text. She emailed me. Subject line, I owe you this. I waited a full day before opening it. Not out of spite, but because I already knew what was inside. It wasn't curiosity holding me back, it was clarity. I wasn't the man who needed answers anymore. I was the man who already had them. Still, I opened it. And I read. She talked about everything. The first time we met. The way I made her feel safe, but not exciting. How she used to compare me to her ex not because he was better, but because being with him felt like chaos, and chaos felt like passion. She wrote, asterisk, I confused drama with love. You gave me peace, and I punished you for it. Asterisk. She admitted she said that one line, you'll never be a man like my ex. Not because she believed it, but because she wanted to hurt me, to feel powerful, to remind herself that she still had control. But she didn't. And she knew that now. She said watching me grow from afar was like watching a dream you laughed at suddenly come true in front of you. Too real to deny, too far to reach. She tried to justify her silence with words like, asterisk, I didn't think you'd actually leave. Asterisk. Asterisk, I thought you'd come back like always. Asterisk. Asterisk, I never imagined you'd outgrow me that fast. Asterisk. But none of it mattered anymore. She apologized. Again and again. Not just for what she said, but for how she made me feel, for all the little ways she chipped away at who I was, just to feel taller. She ended the message with, you probably won't respond. And I get that. I just needed you to know I see it now. All of it. You were already more than enough. I just wasn't ready for someone who didn't need to hurt me to love me. And she was right. I didn't respond. Because forgiveness doesn't always come with a reply. Sometimes, forgiveness is choosing to protect your peace, not your pride. I closed the email, sat with it for a moment, and smiled. Not because it felt good to hear her regret, but because I didn't need her regret anymore. I had already won, not by getting even, but by getting better. She had gone back to the man she once swore she'd never speak to again, and found out he hadn't changed. And now, she was looking at the man she once pushed away, and realizing I had. But the door had already closed, softly, permanently, without slamming. And in that silence, I found everything I ever needed. She used to say I wasn't man enough. And now, I was too much for her to handle. That's what growth does. It turns the people who once doubted you into the audience of a life they no longer get to touch.